Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. All of our coverage from Radio Row, Super Bowl 53. We are at the Georgia World Congress Center, brought to you by our friends at LifeBridge Health Sports Medicine Institute. I'm going to bring my Stan Stasiak left arm thing in case I need to break out the hard punch on Luke Jones, who's here on the other side. Dan Wallach is our guest here. You can find him out on Twitter, and I follow him at Wallach Legal. This is cool because I can actually hold my phone up with it show the Twitter. There it is right there. So this is Dan. First time I've met you. I've had you on the show. First off, welcome in. You're nervous, man. You at the jacket going on, Radio Row, you know?
No. Your reference to Stan the Man Stasiak and the prospect of a lariat
that was
really
frightening.
That's right. That's right.
So, LifeBridge Health Sports Medicine, I've had a little elbow issue. Like when it comes to washing pots and pans, my elbow doesn't do this well, but it does this well, and I do yoga. Yeah. So I went out, I got all fitted up, and the doc said, Dr. Craig Bennett, said you just need to wear this brace in bed. He said you're sleeping like this or like this, and it's creating a torque on your arm. And damn if he wasn't right.
All right, well, that out of the way without any lariats, I think I'm good to go. I'm not nervous any longer.
Well, I'm sneezing, so it's even worse into the microphone without my mute. Okay, I'm better now. For you, in the legal space, we just had a handicapper here talking about gambling and where stuff is in sports. I'm kind of amazed that the league is going to get a piece of the action here, right? From a legal space, what's gone on in Europe for years with gambling, I think this has changed here, right, from a legal aspect.
Well, the leagues get a piece of the action in France, New Zealand, Australia, and even in your home state, in Maryland. You've been to the Preakness Stakes. The operators of Pimlico.
Sure. Yeah, well,
get
our
a piece.
Partners.
They get the operators of Pimlico get a piece of the action of all the wagering that takes place at Pimlico tracks. Off track betting at all these race books all over the country. They pay the operators of Pimlico a percentage of the handle as a host fee for allowing their patrons to wager on Pimlico horse races. So
then it's incumbent upon our friends at the Maryland Jockey Club to be on the up and up as to which horse wins the race, right? Right? I mean,
they could at least share that information with the three of us.
Look, they made movies about this. I saw Guys and Dolls back in the day, And look, it just needs to be on the up and up. And I think that where we were with the NBA, with referees on the take, where we've seen this, I just think it's a fascinating journey where our government can't get who's running the country right, who doesn't understand climate change on a Tuesday morning as we sit here in Atlanta to investigate NCAA basketball coaches or football coaches. Now we're getting the leagues in on which team is here and taking a cut of the eye. I don't know who's going to play judge and jury on that part of it, or whether we even care at this point. I know when I go into the casino and I play blackjack, I want a fair game. That's all I want.
Yeah, but Nestor, I think you're kind of conflating the two issues. There will always be human element, human error. Coaches who maybe commit recruiting violations. That's separate and apart from what the NBA and Major League Baseball are asking for. They're saying they deliver the product. Without their product, there's no betting. And if you increase betting substantially in the United States...
But where's the oversight on that? That's all I'm saying.
The leagues do want I believe they do want oversight. They don't want to leave it solely and exclusively in the hands of the bookmakers to say, well, this is a suspicious bet or this is an unusual bet. They are advocating a centralized information sharing system, just like the stock exchange. So just like regulators can track...
I would hope so. I just know a week and a half later, I think the wrong team's here. You know what I mean? Literally based on a call that was egregious in a key situation. I just don't know when the league's taking money in and out on that.
But the leagues aren't asking for money on the outcome, right? They're asking.
Of course, they're asking for a piece of the overall action.
A piece of the overall action.
We provide the game. We provide the game for you, and for that service, we want 3%.
Oh, that's not the only justification.
Probably about 8%, but they'll settle around 5%, what I understand.
They also bear additional risk.
I read your work on the internet.
Okay, thank you. Apparently, so whatever it is that you've read, I agree with completely. But you're talking about they're the sole producer of the product. They bear additional risk from, if there was no sports betting at all, There wouldn't be any match fixing. There wouldn't be point
if
shaving.
If those people in New Orleans would have burned the place down last week, they would have borne full responsibility.
So I think some of the narrative that's often advanced, well, they can't get this right or they can't get that right. Why should they receive an integrity fee? Well, it's not an integrity fee. It's a fee based upon
I love that, an integrity fee.
It's a fee that's based upon their delivery of the product that's created by them, and to compensate the leagues for the additional risk and expense. They've got to now monitor and investigate legal betting activity that takes place in 50 states. They offer all these multi-jurisdictional investigative resources that gaming commissions can't bring.
And they're going to play games, including a Super Bowl, 50 feet away from the Bellagio before it's all over with once that place gets built out there, right? Like, it is fascinating from a legal standpoint. You look to be sort of kind of my age, that when you and
I'll take that as a compliment, because I think you're in your late 30s, early 40s.
I'm 50, but
really, wow.
So we're sort of the same
age. You should be on television.
Did you grow up in South Florida?
No, I grew up in New York City and Long Island.
Yeah, I mean, like 30 years ago, when I'm playing block pools in high school for $1 a block or whatever, and you had to fly to Las Vegas to place it right, and through all of this 30 years on radio of Costa Rica and all of this stuff happening now, I find it fascinating in the legal space how important and how much things have changed from all of this, from when you went to school to be a lawyer to 20 years, 25 years later, where all of this has gone now. From Vegas having a team, having a hockey team. I was out there. We paraded the Stanley Cup around Vegas, and there was always this, we're going to stay away from it. We need to stay away from it. Shoeless Joe, Pete Rose still can't get in the Hall of Fame overall. And here we go. And now the leagues are going to go into that side of the business. I don't know that I ever saw it coming, because I thought it was like sort of the last taboo. Clearly, Vegas was a taboo for all of our lifetime until 5 minutes ago when we said, we're talking about a lot of money here, right? And there is the internet and the Costa Rica, so let's just play along.
Well, let's look at what's changed here. You're reverting back to 1990, 1991, aftermath of the Pete Rose scandal. How many states had casinos in the early 1990s? Nevada,
we were the one that we drove our horse racing industry broke.
Yeah.
Watching Charlestown, Pennsylvania, Atlantic City, all of these places come. Sure.
Yeah, public perception of gambling has changed. We now have 40 states that have some form of commercial gaming. In 1990, 91, there were only 3. Everything has shifted. Third one was Mississippi.
Okay, sure. And the riverboats.
Riverboat gambling, docked. It wasn't even riverboat. It was docked to the shore, and you could gamble as long as you were on the barge and the barge was connected to land. You could bet on the barge. And that's the way.
I did that in St. Louis one night, and I hope there's no pictures or videos. That's all I'm saying. Things happened that night. Something about the glare of the Gateway Arch got to me.
Yeah, I mean, no one saw this coming 25 years ago. I went into the legal profession in 1992. I didn't know about sports or even gambling. I was a litigator. And just over the course of time, I began to, be fascinated by this space. But still, the law was prohibitive of state governments legalizing sports betting. There was a federal law that had been in place by virtue of as early as 1992, PASPA, Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act, which basically placed a bubble wrap over any and all state-sanctioned sports betting. So for 26 years, you couldn't even do it. And I was writing about this issue 5 years before the law changed, and the switch flipped in 2018, and now it's an arms race.
Well, I guess that was my point. I mean, my point was we just can't talk about it. It's sort of like weed in America, right? Yeah. You just couldn't talk about it, and then it just changed. Every part of it changes. And I guess from the legal aspect, I want to get this in because the Colin Kaepernick thing's fascinating to me. And I know from your litigate, and you write about all of these issues. This is interesting, right? That the league's going to fight a blackballing case that, to a lot of fans' eyes, we've seen a modern-day Curt Flood.
Well, it's kind of obvious that anybody who follows football would be hard-pressed to name 96 quarterbacks that are better than Colin Kaepernick. A quarterback who's been to the Super Bowl, who's in his 20s, mobility.
He's still in his 20s, isn't he, Luke?
Yeah, easily.
Yeah. mobility,
unbelievable,
a social media following.
It's a disgrace. I mean,
unlike
as
anybody
I sit here
else.
with an NFL, it's a disgrace.
Yeah.
It's
the
a
question
disgrace.
is,
you know what? He's 31. We're wrong.
Okay. Well, it seemed.
Well, there's Ray Rice. Then he's got to be over the hill. Then
still very much a viable age for a quarterback.
Hey, look, Doug Flutie played until he was near 40.
Sure.
Eli Manning, is not necessarily the best example,
Sure.
but Drew Brees, a quarterback's prime is actually in his early to mid 30s, and depending upon his skill set, maybe the late 30s. So there's plenty of time left for Kaepernick. The issue isn't whether he should be playing, but whether the owners in any way joined arms or acted in concert, or were pressured by the league, or were pressured by any outside influences.
No way that happened.
Yeah, yeah.
No way.
But there may be some smoking guns. There are some email communications, and I believe during some of there may be some evidence of.
Well, they all said something stupid publicly.
Yeah,
I mean.
Yeah, there's no.
So's the president. When's he going to prison? You know what I mean? Like, at some point, the words and the actions need to be held accountable. But I am hard pressed to think the NFL will ever pay any price for hanging Colin Kaepernick at sundown.
You might
front
be
of the whole
surprised if the arbitrator who's presiding over this case had a sense of irony. He would drop the decision on the Friday before the Super Bowl, and if he rules in favor of Kaepernick, that could be a damages case that could easily, given all of his lost earnings and what the average court salary would be for a top-tier quarterback or an average quarterback, he's looking at potential recovery of $20, $30 million or more. The NFL will be held accountable so long as the arbitrator rules in favor of Kaepernick, and that's upheld in a court case, because the loser of this case, whoever it is, will run to federal court to challenge the arbitration decision. So we're likely to see like a Deflategate style legal proceeding.
Wouldn't that be lovely?
Let's
talk about it for the next 2 or 3 Super Bowls.
Please. That's my dream.
Yeah.
Any sports lawyer worth his salt wishes for protracted legal proceedings in sports cases.
You still charge by the hour, correct?
Oh man, you know how much I've made. You know how much I made in all the years of Deflategate? 0. It's just I do it for fun and just to get on your show. That's compensation enough.
Well, I mean, it's forced me to drink a lot of water and hydrate as I move through. Dan Wallach is here. Dan Wallach Legal. You can follow him out on Twitter, and I have it up right up here, and I'll put it up on the camera. Gaming law, sports betting attorney, and co-founder. My wife will appreciate this. UNH Law, the University of New Hampshire, correct?
It's a first sports wagering program in the United States where students can get a certificate, take 5 courses, and learn the field of sports wagering and sport integrity. First of its kind. I'm running that with Michael McCann from Sports Illustrated.
And to think that I brought up sports wagering right out of the gate with you, like I knew a little bit about what you write about. I'm fascinated because I think it's going to change what I do here. Well, Luke and I talk about it. Luke said fantasy already has changed the conversation. Well, it's just a guy my age. I have a fantasy team. They're called the Ravens. When we win, I feel good. When we lose, I lost, Well, so I don't need to have
everyone
one of these
fantasy, though.
goons as my quarterback. I got Joe Flacco. Well, I used to have Joe Flacco. And now I have Lamar.
And watch out for Maryland. Maryland may be on deck with legislation this year. The thought had always been you have to go to a constitutional amendment and have the voters approve sports betting, but there are several lawmakers who are trying to introduce legislation during this session to possibly allow sports betting as early as 2019, and you could potentially be going to Pimlico and wager on sporting events by next year's Super Bowl.
Well, they have built a beautiful new sports book down at Laurel, our sponsors. We talk about that. And so, look, these places are all getting online for this, right? I mean, Jersey had it instituted that, the minute it happened, we're betting Yankees games a week later. Literally, this isn't – the whole industry is prepared for this. It's not like the cannabis industry was like, let's go find a seat. They sort of knew how to do this before it was ever instituted because – this is coming, and the league's going to be a part of it, and I think it's very, very obvious.
And it's going to be mobile. It's going to be over the internet.
More people like me need people like you to sort of understand where it all sits, and I know that that's part of your platform and what you try to do.
I can't disagree with that last sentence, but the future is going to be mobile. Rather than going to a racetrack or casino, you're going to be able to bet on sports just like you set your lineups on DraftKings or FanDuel. That day is coming in Maryland, probably within the next year or 2.
Dan Wallach can be found at Wallach Legal out on Twitter and UNH-EDU. Even though it's UNH, you live in Florida. Give me that gig where you work in New Hampshire but you live in Florida. Give me that. I want that gig.
Do you want minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit or plus 80 degrees Fahrenheit?
I've been to Florida. You don't have to talk me into it.
It's an online program. Only a fool would drive to Concord, New Hampshire in January to record a class from a hotel room. I can do it just as easily in Miami, but I love New Hampshire.
My sister-in-law and father-in-law love it. It's beautiful up there.
One of the highest qualities of life among any of the states. I think it's like top 3. It's a great state, but it's a little bit too cold.
State.
The Granite State, where Walter White went in hiding.
In the mountain, and then he fell, and everybody cried. I know all about it. I've been there many times. Dan Wallach can be found at Wallach Legal, and I appreciate you, man.
Thank you
Thanks
very much.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for your loyalty all these years, Nestor.
He made out okay for being nervous. It's okay. All of our WNST coverage can be found in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. All of our Super Bowl 53 coverage brought to you by our friends at Strategic Factory as well as our friends at Royal Farms. Real fresh, real fast. We'll be telling you more all week long. Luke's here. I'm here. We're at WNST.net, AM 1570 at WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.